Hi, Jenn Mason from Cloth Paper Scissors here, and today I want to take a little bit of the fear out of working with resin. If you've never worked with resin before, this is a great one to start with. This is ice resin. It's a two-part non-toxic resin. It's really easy to use, and I'm going to show you how today. If you want more information on some jewelry making or some mixed media making techniques with resin, I recommend Exploring Resin Jewelry Making with Susan Leonard-Casimir. Some great ideas on even making some molds and pouring your own resin shapes. So today I thought I'd do a little tiny mixed media resin project. I'm working with a little keyhole that I got at a flea market. Other things we need with the ice resin comes little measuring cups and stir sticks, which are just popsicle sticks. I also grabbed some of my toothpicks from the cupboard and packing tape, and I'm going to put a little piece of floating text in my keyholes. And I also am going to use a little of this Pearl X. This is a mica powder. This happens to be a sort of chunky mica powder. It's usually finer than that, but I like this because it'll look like I have little flakes of copper in it. And I also use some super seal on my paper. By spraying both sides of my paper, I help to seal it so that I get to keep some of the opacity of the paper. If you don't do that, the resin will soak right through your paper, which gives you an entirely different look, and today I wanted to have it a little sealed. So to start, what I've done is used a piece of tape, and you also need a pair of scissors, which I do have here out of the sight of the camera here. So let's cut this. I already have our one piece on it. And this is what you need to do if you're going to be filling a hole that has no backing. If you're filling a bezel shape, which Susan will show you on her video, you don't actually need to do this step. And you want to make sure that you get it pressed. This is what's going to keep that resin from pouring out the bottom. So now I have two pieces here. I'm going to push these two out of the way so they don't keep sticking to me. And we're going to mix our resin. This is like a cold syrup kind of container. It has all the different measurements, and you want to use equal parts of both your part A and your part B. Susan mentions that if you need to be a little more generous with one, you can be a little more generous with the hardener, but if you're more generous with this first part, part A, the actual resin, it might not solidify you. So I am just going to add 1 gram here. I'm just using the little mark on my piece. There are also little tips, little applicator bottle tops for this, but I like using it just like this. I'm going to add just a little bit more. I want to show you this whole process because I don't want anyone to be afraid of trying to use resin in their work. Okay, so we have 1 gram of that. And I'm going to add another gram of this. And you can definitely make more, but because we have these two small, this is even going to be more than we need. And I'm going to put the tops on those. Make sure you put the right tops on or you'll accidentally harden your tops to your pieces. And I'm going to use my stir stick here. And we just want to keep stirring. Just like cooking, you want to get it all mixed together. And see, there's some bubbles in there. That's fine. We're going to let it sit for a minute once we get it all stirred so those bubbles can come to the surface, and then we can start pouring. And you just keep stirring. You'll be able to feel it. The liquids are 2 different consistencies, so you can feel it when they're mixed. Alright, so we're going to let this sit for a couple minutes and we'll come back and I'll show you how to pour. Okay, we're back. We've mixed our resin for 2 minutes. A lot of the big bubbles are out. The rest of them will work their way to the top. And now we want to fill our little keyholes here. I have 2 little pieces of text. These are the pieces that I cut from our paper here. If I just put these right in here, they would stick to that tape too. So what I want to do is first put a tiny bit in. And you can do this with your popsicle stick or with your toothpick. Because we don't want to put too much in. We just want to get enough that's touching that tape so that I'm going to do both of these at the same time. because we don't want, like I said, that paper to touch the bottom. Okay, so that's enough. I'm going to use the tip of one of these toothpicks to push that around, and then this one around here. These are very small spots to fill with this resin. And now I'm going to put in, and you could use tweezers if you're, nervous about laying this down. Again, it's sticking to my fingers. So I'm going to lay that in there. Try to keep it from sticking to me. And then I'm going to move this around just a little bit. Push it down into that resin. We're going to put a little more resin on top. And some of that mica powder in just a second. And this one says "I spied," which I thought was a funny text for, again, tweezers would be good. I thought it was a funny text for a keyhole. I spied. Alright, I'm going to put this in here in our little keyhole shape. Is use this Pearl X powder. And the other kind of toothpicks I like to have are these little sandwich toothpicks. I don't know if you can see, but this has like a wider end. I use kind of like a spoon. A little coffee stirrer would work too. I'm just going to tap this in. I'm not worried about the stuff that falls outside of where the resin's going to be. We can just wipe that off later. And I just want to sort of tap some of this in. Alright, so the last thing we need to do is put a little resin on top of that, and because I need such a little bit of resin, I'm going to try to use my toothpick here instead. If you were using a bezel that had a back to it and you wanted to put a little text in there, you could put a little double stick tape in, because you don't have to put the resin underneath the paper like we do here so that it doesn't stick to the plastic or to the tape. So you can put a little double stick tape underneath your text, and that way it won't float up to the top, which will sometimes happen. Even these little guys are floating up to the top a bit. Alright, so now we just have to let those sit, and then I'll wipe off the extra mica powder we have on the sides, and then they're ready to use. Now I should tell you, I also use this Super Seal, or you can use some other type of varnish to protect my keyholes. My keyholes are pretty rusty, but by sealing them in, then I don't have to worry, if I want to use this as a jewelry piece later, I don't have to worry about that rust getting off on the wearer. But you might think, okay, Jen, you didn't make much resin, but you have a lot left. So there's lots of different things you can do with the extra resin. I do recommend that you have all of the projects that you want to fill like this ready, but if you wanted to add natural elements into another piece of work, what I like to do is keep some fun small branches. I'm always on the lookout for these that have fallen to the ground. And I don't know if you can tell, but this is shiny because this is something I've already taken a popsicle stick and brushed the resin over. So now I have a piece of resin coated wood. I can break off a little piece of this and wrap it with wire and use it in a piece of on a necklace, or I can use it in a collage. So that's a good way to use it up. And the other good way to use it up is to make resin covered paper. So these are the two pieces of paper that I had that I cut the text out of, but I can also pour my resin. Let me move my toothpick here, and I can make some resin covered paper. Now, because I've sprayed this won't make it translucent. If you see Susan or watch Susan's DVD, when she does this, it really makes the paper translucent. I've put a coating on this, so it's not going to soak in the same way, but it will still make it a fun, pliable paper that I can tear up and use later in part of a piece of jewelry, in a mixed media collage, in a wall hanging, in any kind of piece. And so you can use this. I'm just using the stir stick here, but you could also use a sponge. And note that I am working on a piece of plastic garbage bag so that I'm not ruining my top, and when this is all dried it'll pick right up. So I hope I've taken some of the fear out of using resin. You can find this ice resin at innerweavestore.com, and for more information like this, come to clothpaperscissors.com.